What's going on? You listen to King Cam Ujumbe Podcast, Ujumbe means message, and today's message is DNA, Dynasties, and Deception, the hunt for the true mother of King Tut. Yeah, we're about to get into it. I'm glad that you guys are here. As requested, the fam has asked for it, and right before Mother's Day, as promised, we're about to get into this conversation. We're going to talk about DNA, Dynasties, and Deception, the hunt for the true mother of King Tut. What's going on, Brother Ferguson? What's going on? Shout out to the fam. Yeah. If you come in, don't forget to hit the like button and greet everybody as you come in. Yeah, this is our pre-Mother's Day event. I'm thankful that you guys are here, and we're about to get into this conversation. All right. So the question is, who was the real mother of King Tut? Yeah. We about to do a little DNA. We about to run some DNA information and everything, and we're gonna mess around and find out because King Tutankhamun, one of the most famous pharaohs of ancient Egypt, remains a subject of fascination for historians and archaeologists and us, right? While his father, Pharaoh Akhenaten, is well documented, the identity, though, of his mother has been a long-standing mystery. Yeah, we don't really know who his mama is, right? And so we have various theories. These theories have emerged with candidates including Nefertiti, a sister named Kiya, and the mysterious figure known as the Younger Lady. Yeah, Akhenaten, he had another woman. I said it. So, with advancements in genetic analysis and continued historical research, scholars have made significant progress in uncovering the truth. This discussion, we're going to go into this discussion. We're going to deal with the primary contenders of King Tut's mother, examining genetic evidence, historical records, and the landscape of the time, right? So, today, get something to write on, and something to write with. Sit back and relax. We're going to engage in the conversation. Greetings. Okay, shout out to Miss Blue. She's in here. All right. Greetings, everyone. Greet everybody. Hit the like button as you are coming in and greet everybody and get your school supplies, right? So today, we're going to talk about Akhenaten Nefertiti, a strategic royal union. All right. Kiya, the vanishing consort, the political intrigue in the Amarna court, because as we've been learning that it's not Hotep all the time. And the politics of Kemet gets really different. It gets real sticky, right? And so we're going to talk about Akhenaten and Nefertiti, Kiya, political intrigue, a younger lady, and you guys asked for it. We're about to get into a little bit more of the Kemetic science, the esoteric meaning of the Djed. Yeah, so get ready. We're going to have this conversation. All right. So before we get into that, King Tut, his Haru name, his horse name is Ka Nakat Tut Mesu. Ka Nakat Tut Mesu, or Tawut Mesu. Okay. The strong bull pleasing or at birth, right? He's a strong bull. He's a pleasing bull at birth. Mesu, when you hear the word Mesu, that means he was born. That means born of, right? His Nebatawi names. That means Neferhepu Sekeretawi. Okay. Shout out to James Eagle. Yeah. Hotep, peace, my brother. Peace. What's going on? Okay, it's Nebatawi names, one of the perfect laws who pacifies the two lands. Whenever you hear Nebatawi or Simatawi, that means they're the unifier of two lands. All right, let's go. Now, and so a little bit more about it. His throne. So we did the Haru name, we did the Nebatawi name, right? Now his throne name. When this is the name he received at coronation. That is Neb Kefer or Kephara, okay, or Zephyra, right? That means the Lord of the forms of Ra, or Lord created by God Himself, right? His birth name, his name that his parents gave him is Tutankhamun, okay, the living image of Amun. Shout out to Pharaoh SE. That's a pretty good website where you can see the breakdowns of these names. Shout out to them. All right, so we broke down his his Haru name at coronation, right? His Nefertari name, throne name, and this is what you will see. Most of the time, you'll see this in the shin rings or the cartouche, right? And on the right, that is the Neb Zepara, right? Neb Zepara. What's going on, Mo? What's going on? Yeah, we about to get into it, y'all. All right. Almost everybody alumni is here just before Mother's Day to find out who's King Tut's mama. Okay. I want to know too, but we are all learning together. All right, let's go. All right, so we have Akhenaten and Nefertiti, a strategic royal union. Okay, like most royal marriages in ancient Egypt, the union between Akhenaten and Nefertiti was likely arranged. It was an arranged marriage. Okay, royal marriages were political instruments designed to strengthen alliances. Okay, there was political tools, right, to strengthen alliances. Let me expand this a little bit. Designed to strengthen alliances, consolidate power, and to ensure the continuation of the ruling dynasty. As we all know, the 18th dynasty was the most influential, and I believe you guys can agree to disagree or whatever, but the 18th dynasty was the most powerful. Okay, so they wanted to make sure that this family continues. Remember, this dynasty had Hatshepsut in it, Tahuti-Mesu III in it, and then Amenhotep and his family. So while the exact origins of Nefertiti remains uncertain, many scholars believe she came from either, get this, a noble or royal lineage. They don't know for sure. And get this, y'all, some theories, some people suggest she may have been a daughter of I. Okay, a guy named I, not the letter I, but A-Y, right? I. He was a high-ranking official who later became pharaoh. Wait a minute. Pause on the play. Nefertiti, right? Here's the setup. Nefertiti didn't really have a royal background, but some of her family was influential. Okay? She married the one that was born king. Okay? And so making her marriage to Akhenaten, it was a strategic alliance to solidify the influence of her family within the royal court. And later on, we find out that her father would later become pharaoh after this all said and done. Yeah, it's already getting shaky. There's a red flag is already coming up, right? All right, so let's go. Now, given Akhenaten's radical religious reforms and shift towards the worship of the Aten, okay, his marriage to Nefertiti may have also served as a religious and ideological purpose. So think about the strategy. On one side, it is political, okay, and on the other side, it is religious. Nefertiti played a critical, central role in the promotion of Atenism, appearing prominently in the religious iconography alongside her husband. They was always taking selfies. They was always on social media. if there was such a thing, they really knew how to put themselves out there in social media. They always was taking selfies with each other and with the family. Okay, they took advantage of that. All right, so this close partnership suggests that she was chosen not only for her noble lineage, but also for her ability to support her husband's vision. Okay, so on one side we have the political strategy, right? And now we have the religious strategy. Okay. Now, despite being an arranged marriage, historical and artistic depictions suggest that Akhenaten and Nefertiti had a deep personal connection. We know how this goes. We forget. All right, fam. We tend to forget that these people were people. Okay. These people weren't just monoliths and images on a wall. These were real people in real life situations and circumstances, right? So, towards the end of the 18th dynasty, and foreigners are at the gate, people are not really sure about Akhenaten like that. And remember, Queen Tiye is still the Queen Mother is still living. Happy Mother's Day. The Queen Mother is still living. So I really believe that he was trying his best to put his best face forward in the public. So, best thing to do is to show that he is a family man and he is God-fearing and all these things. Okay? He tried to play that card. And so, in these images, they're often shown together in affectionate poses and rarity in traditional Egyptian art, right? Their partnership in governance, religious matters, and artistic representation indicates that Nefertiti held a position of exceptional influence far beyond that of a typical royal wife. That's capped because Queen Mother, Queen Tiye, she had a lot of influence, but she wasn't always in the photos like that. I'm trying to figure out how come she's always in the photos with all the children and all that stuff. This is strategy. Because I have yet to hear about King Akhenaten throwing hands for real. All right, let me know. Like and comment. Let me know if there has been a time where Akhenaten actually went into combat. His father did. So I think he has something to prove. All right. What do y'all think? What do y'all think? Now, Nefertiti, here it is. This is my opinion. This is just my opinion. Okay. This is King Cam's opinion. You know, love it or lump it. Okay. Here it is. Nefertiti was a foreigner. You hear what I said? She was a foreigner. She wasn't a royal blood from the royalty in the dynastic era. She's a foreigner, and she played her role well. Being that she is a foreigner, yes, she may look black, but she's not from there. So it's like this. If you are coming from another state into this other area, right? And you got some people there, so you're trying to do what they're doing so you can kind of fit in, right? So she played her role well. And I knew, and get this, I think that she knew that Akhenaten struggled in certain areas. Okay, because in my opinion, I really think Akhenaten, even though he knew the laws, he knew the symbolism and all the things, but I think he was really unsure as to who he was. So he struggled. Okay, that he was kind of out of balance. All right. So, but get this: if she was the daughter of a noble, a king, a person named I, a high official in Kemet, she served her purpose long enough for him to gain some influence in the background, because eventually he will become king. Yep. I think she was a foreigner, but if she wasn't a foreigner, she was opening the floodgates for her family to get involved. Like and comment below. Let me know. But I really believe that Nefertiti, she was not from Kemet for real, even though she had some features and all that. And Queen Tiye knew that. Queen Mother knew that. And you got this girl from out of town, and she messing his head up. Okay, she is really messing his mind up. So, what do y'all think? All right, let me see. I know some families. I know the people are talking, so let me get to it. All right, Mo said, I guess that's why his so-called son didn't make it as well, because he had no backbone. Man, hold on. So you saying Mo is saying this? He said, I guess why his so-called son, which is King Tut, didn't make it because the father had no backbone. Yeah, that could be, because even I think that King Tut was in a bad situation. He was born into a bad situation. Okay, the walls was closing in on him, but he didn't even know it. That's the tragedy behind it. He was just doing what he was told to do. Yeah. And yeah, and I think, and Brother Ma goes on to say, if he had a backbone, things may have been different. I think so. I think if Akhenaten was really that dude, he was influential philosophically and religiously. But if he was really that dude, if he was that person that stood behind Kemet as a nation, yeah, it would be no question that that things would be totally different. The 18th dynasty would have lasted longer, but we never know, right? All right. So, but I'm gonna tell you why this is my opinion. This is why. Okay, here's why. Here's why. Okay, got some pen and paper. Here it is. Now, disclaimer. Okay, I'm just going before we get into all that. Disclaimer: we don't know for sure. Okay, we don't know for sure. I'm just saying, I don't know everything, but the one thing I do know is that there's a lot of things out there, and some of those things is crazy. This is crazy. Now, here it is. Here's one reason. She was from a royal Egyptian bloodline, the daughter of I, right? Next thing, here's a reason why. She was a foreign princess from Mitanni or elsewhere. She may have been from the royal court. She may have been a foreigner and or a native elite with unknown parents. Okay? Now, here it is. Now, dealing with the daughter of I, right? Some scholars suggest that Nefertiti was Egyptian royalty, possibly the daughter of I, a high-ranking courtier who later became the pharaoh after Tutankhamun, which I think is strange, bro. That's strange to me. Okay, so hold on, let me get back to it. So, he held the title God's father, which may suggest he was Nefertiti's actual father. Okay, and Akhenaten's father-in-law. This would make Nefertiti a noble or semi-royal woman. Okay, so in a sense, he was already in place, right? He was already in place. Okay, he was already there. All right, so he was already in the mix. But the main question though, was she royalty or was she a foreigner? Okay, was she really that person? Was she a royalty or was she a foreigner? Now, but before we get into it, before I go into further detail, happy Mother's Day to all the sisters, all the mothers, the aunties, mother figures, and all that. Before I get all the way rude and disrespectful, happy Mother's Day to all our sisters, to my mother, to Queen Mother, Mama Nita, and to Queen Cam, and to all the sisters with children or with stepchildren or with children that you took in, little cousins, big sisters. Happy Mother's Day. But I'm going to tell you this. Father's Day will be next month, and we need to have our day. I said what I said. All right. So happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, mother figures, and everybody. All right. Let's go. So, was she royalty or foreigner? Like I said before, some scholars suggest that Nefertiti was Egyptian royalty, right? Possibly the daughter of I. Here's the evidence. He held a title because we say names mean a lot, especially in Kemet. You just don't throw names around. That means God's father, which may suggest she was Nefertiti's actual father and Akhenaten's father-in-law, right? This would make Nefertiti a noble or semi-royal, okay, if not directly of royal descent. So she was in the mix, but her bloodline wasn't directly the bloodline of the 18th dynasty. If it was true, her rise to queenship and potential co-regency will reflect a strategic dynastic alliance, strengthening Akhenaten's reign with established noble support. I told you that marriage was strategic. Okay, so we have a king that everybody's not sure about marrying a woman who has some nobility, right? Here's another thing. This girl may be from Syria. Yeah, Nefertiti may be from Syria. Let that sink in. That's why Queen Tiye wasn't sure about this girl. She wasn't sure. Yeah, she was. Yep. Mother's Day to all the mothers. Yeah. So, yeah, let's get into it. From Syria, right? Now, here it is. Another theory is that Nefertiti was of foreign origin. She was not from Kemet. She may have been black, but she wasn't from the Kemetic culture, possibly from Mitanni, a powerful kingdom in Syria, right? Why is that? Her name, this is her name right here, Nefertiti. That means the beautiful one has come. Come from where? Right? Come from where? Right? This sounds like it made reference to someone who has arrived from elsewhere, somewhere else. Now, there's a theory. The Tadu theory. Some speculate she was the Mitannian princess Tadu sent to marry Amenhotep III. It was another political situation. But as I heard before, I heard this from a few scholars like Dr. Ben and some others that by the time she got to Egypt, by the time she got to Kemet, Amenhotep was already dead. He was gone. So she had to marry Akhenaten. What do y'all think? So, but there is little direct evidence for this, okay? A foreign queen, but here's the thing, a foreign queen becoming co-regent in another place or even pharaoh would be extraordinary, implying she had immense charisma, intelligence, and spiritual authority to transcend cultural boundaries. This girl may be from Syria and not Kemet. Look, not Syria, right? Yeah, that's another reason why I think Queen Mother Tiye wasn't all that happy with her son marrying this foreign girl like this. Yeah. So she may came from a royal family from the royal court. She might be from Syria, from another location. Now, for her, here's the thing. For her to come from Syria with African features and to be received by the royal court in Africa, in Kemet, that says a lot. Okay? It says that she looked like them. And get this, y'all, she also knew and understood some of the Kemetic culture. All right? So she understood the Kemetic language. She understood the norms and processes. So yeah, she wasn't a dummy. Okay, she wasn't that, but that it causes people to side eye her, and not only that, by people side eyeing her, she didn't come by herself. Y'all, she didn't come all that way to Kemet by herself. I know she had an entourage with her. You see what I'm saying? So you have this transitional period. Think about it now. The old king dies, right? This new king we're not sure about, and this woman are coming in from another state or another country, and all these people are coming in. We already had an issue with the Hyksos already. We already booted them out. Now you coming in with these other folk. Remember, Greece and Rome, they're not really in the picture yet, but you're starting to see waves and waves of foreign nations or foreign people coming in. Yeah. So, like I think Brother Mo was saying that, yeah, the son, King Tut, was in a bad situation because one of my theories is this: her cousins were still in town when he was still alive. Yeah. Yeah, because we really don't know for sure what happened. I got some ideas as far as what happened to Queen Nefertiti in a minute. We'll talk about that. But yeah, so she's maybe from a royal court, maybe from Syria, which I think she was from out of town. And I'm going to tell you this, though. She was from Syria. She was not German or Mediterranean. For the people in the back, she was not from Europe. And she was not light-skinned. You're very welcome. All right. All right. So this picture here, this image here, the famous image of Queen Nefertiti that everybody likes, which is great, but that is not ancient. Somebody from Germany made that. All right. Now, Brother Eagle says, if her origin is Assyrian, then that will make her Edomite, still black, or maybe Ethiopian, making her Cushite and still black. Okay, I wrote, yeah, that I get it. I get that. And shout out to the fam. This summer, speaking of Ethiopia, we will be going back to Ethiopia and have a discussion on ancient Aksum in Ethiopia this summer. We're going to get into that. All right. I think everybody likes that, and we're going to deal with it. We're going to deal with some more things, some more topics on ancient Ethiopia, and we're going to deal with some Kemetic science. But yeah, it does make, if she's Assyrian and Assyria has some Kushite influence, as we talked about before, yeah, it'll make her Ethiopian or Kushite. She's still black, which makes her she understands Kemetic culture for sure. Yeah. All right, shout out to the family. What's going on? All right, now a native elite with unknown parents. That's the third theory, right? This is a more conservative view, is that she was from Egypt, but from a non-royal but famous or elite family that had some money, right? And her parents is simply not recorded due to the unusual nature of the Amarna period. It was a lot of things during the Amarna period that was lost. Okay, so a lot of things was lost in translation, right? So Nefertiti is never titled. Get this, y'all. She never had a title called like King's daughter or King's sister. Okay, like Sebek Neferu, one of her titles is the King's daughter. Okay, we talked about Queen Sebek Neferu and even her sister Neferu Ptah. Okay, they had those titles saying that they were the king's daughter. They was daddy's girls. In this situation, Nefertiti, according to sources, did not have that title. Okay, they're typical. These kind of titles, these kind of handles would be typical of somebody of a royal birth, right? So this actually could mean that she wasn't of royal blood, but her many titles was almost equal to Akhenaten himself. Suggests that royal or not, she held some kind of influence, right? So most scholars would lean toward Nefertiti. Most of them would lean towards the fact that she was Egyptian, or like Brother Eagle said, Cushite. Okay, all right. So possibly the daughter of but we're not going to rule out the fact that she was from somewhere else, though. And so the mystery of her ancestry remains part of this mystery, right? And so here's the thing: either she was the daughter of the Egyptian nobility. She was either a foreign princess named Tanakipa from Syria, or she was an elite. Okay, so if you'd like for me to go into more detail about her as far as Nefertiti, y'all let me know. Okay, let's go. Let's continue. So the role of Queen Nefertiti in King Tut's lineage. Now, we kind of have an idea who she is or who she was, but what role did she play with the boy, right? Now, was Nefertiti King Tut's mama? Okay, that was the question. That's the main question. One of them, right? So one of the most widely held beliefs, according to popular belief, and especially in earlier studies, was that Queen Nefertiti, the great royal wife of Akhenaten, could have been King Tut's mother. Okay, Nefertiti was a powerful queen who played a crucial role in Akhenaten's religious revolution, shifting Egypt's worship to the monotheistic cult of Aten. Okay, now it's just natural. In the natural scheme of things, we have the king here and the royal wife, and then the boy king. The natural scheme of things would be, okay, she must be his mother, right? And so her prominence in art and inscription suggests she had an unusual degree of influence. However, despite her influence, get this, y'all, here it is. According to sources, there's no record explicitly naming her as the mother of King Tut. There's no record. There is no record. Nothing spelled out saying that Queen Nefertiti is the mother of King Tut. Yeah. It's popular, but she's not her. Okay. Now, in addition, get this, genetic analysis has cast doubt on the theory too. Mitochondrial DNA, shout out to the scientific fam. All right, mitochondrial DNA testing suggests King Tut's mother was not one of the known great royal wives, but instead a lesser wife or a member of the royal family without significant political prominence. I told you, Queen Tiye, she side-eyed that woman. She wasn't sure. She wasn't sure about Nefertiti for real. She may be pretty, she may be smart, but she's not from here kind of thing, right? Given Nefertiti's prominent status, it is unlikely that she would remain unnamed in the DNA research and historical record. This suggests that although she played a vital role in the Amarna period, she was not King Tut's biological mother. She probably had a hand in raising him, okay? Because that's her husband's son, right? But she's not the mother, okay? According to DNA test, Nefertiti is not the mother. God, yeah. All right, Mama Louise, okay, yeah. Wow, yep. I'm learning this too, because for many years I thought Nefertiti was King Tut's mama. Again, because she is married to her man, and that's her man's son, and chances are she may be from out of town, she couldn't blow up the spot like that. She couldn't. she couldn't really look at me. She couldn't really put that man on blast like that. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, hearts are broken. Yeah. And you know what? I wonder, was her heart broken? You see what I'm saying? Even though we may be having fun, think about her situation. Think about her circumstance. Where's her heart broken behind this? Okay? Just think about it. All right? Let's get it. Let me get back to it. Now, also get this. Nefertiti, she had children. She had 6 daughters with Akhenaten, but no sons. 6 daughters, 6 girls, with no son. Okay? No sons are specifically mentioned in historical record. So had a lot of girls, but no boys between them. If she had been the mother of King Tut, you would expect her to highlight this relationship. It would have been the pharaoh's mother, queen mother, something like that, right? As it would have been reinforced her position in history. So I got a question. Do you guys think having only daughters caused a political strain or some kind of strain between the two? Because he had to have a son. What y'all think? Do you think by the great royal wife, okay, the number one woman, having all girls and no boys, in this climate, do you think that caused some issues between them two? What y'all think? All right, let me know. Now, additionally, get this. After Akhenaten's death, oh, by the way, we will get into some a little bit more. We talked about DNA. We will get into some genetics a little bit later on. I forgot about that. I forgot to tell you. I got some in my back pocket for that. All right, now, additionally, after, get this, y'all, check this out. After her husband died, because we forget that a lot of these people were still living during the time. So, to my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Queen Tiye, when Akhenaten passed, she was still alive. Okay, and Nefertiti was still alive, and certainly the boy king was still living. Okay, or at least a baby, right? Nefertiti's position became increasingly uncertain when her man died. Right? She's not from there. She got married to this man, but do she go back home? Right? Some scholars believe she assumed the throne under the name Neferuaten, potentially ruling as a female pharaoh before vanishing from the historical record. So did she take on another name? Did she take on another title so she can continue his legacy? All right. Or at least maintain what she have left. I don't know. Okay. So because if she had been to King Tut's mama, her legacy would likely have continued through his reign, but instead her connection to him is absent in official inscription. Once King Tut became King Tut, Nefertiti was no more. You don't see or hear nothing about her at all. It was all about him. Man. Brother Ferguson says Nefertiti for sure was not from the Caucasus Mountains. Yusuf said definitely. Miss Blue says it must cause some kind of heartache knowing they wanted sons, or they not just wanted but needed to continue this dynasty. Somebody to have a boy around here, right? Yeah. Mama Louise says, I'm sure there was a strain between the couple for desire the birth of a male heir. Yeah. Most said I agree with Mama Louise, but Queen couldn't say nothing because she was a foreigner. And like I said, even though she may have had nobility, but she was not in the inner circle like that. She was in a bad spot. She may have had some money, but she didn't have the influence like Queen Tiye had. Because remember, Queen Mother still alive. Okay, she had the power, right? Yeah. And get this, so when King Tut rose into power, Nefertiti is no more. What happened to her? All right, let's go. So there was, you guys guessed it, you guys kind of picked it up. There was some issues. There was a rivalry between Queen Mother and daughter-in-law. Ooh, man. There was some issues between Queen Mother and daughter-in-law. Yeah. There's some evidence research suggests that a possible rivalry between Queen Tiye and Nefertiti, two powerful women in overlapping spheres of influence. So they bump heads a little bit. Queen Tiye, Queen Mother, as the kings of real mother and experienced matriarch, may have clashed ideologically or politically with Nefertiti, who championed radical religious reforms. Tiye, who's Akhenaten's mother, was a powerful matriarch with considerable influence. Remember, we said this before in the top 5 queens. She had diplomatic powers. People from out of town, from other countries, was writing to her, asking for her advice. Okay, Queen Mother still has some influence, and some sources imply she maintained authority during her son's reign. She still had it. So there was some clash between them, between mother and daughter-in-law. There was some issues. He said, "Look, I'm sure I probably got petty too. My son don't like the macaroni and cheese like that. You better cook it like this." Man, I'm sure it got like that. I'm sure it got like that. You know. So Ms. Blue said, also, we know they're good at making people disappear once Tut took the throne. Yeah, and then by the time King Tut became in his teen years, Queen Tiye was, I'm sure she was already gone. So there was really nobody around him to really buffer this, to really give him some guidance on this. All right, yeah. So the dynamics between Queen Mother and the great royal wife may have included political maneuvering, especially in the court already divided by religious and ideological conflicts. This tension could have further complicated the maternal narrative surrounding King Tut. Yeah, there was some issues. Because they got to address that, right? So think about it. There was no male heir that would continue her family's name. Think about Queen Tiye. Okay, this is her sitting next to her husband right here. Amenhotep the third. Okay, the great Amenhotep the third. All right, knowing what this legacy represents, right? At this point, her son is gone, right? There's no male heir. Well, her son is not gone yet, but up until this point, all they had was daughters. All they had was girls, right? So there's no male heir that will continue her family's name, no male heir that will continue her husband's and her son's legacy. And Nefertiti ain't royalty. Think about this. Think about it as parents. Okay, I know there's some parents that are watching live, and there's some parents that are listening on the replay. Think about this. Think about this. Think about it. This foreign girl. We got to make them real. We got to make them people. This girl got my son's nose wide open. Okay, think about her position. This boy started liking this girl over here. He not only left the house, he changed gods. Think about that. Think about how would you feel? Okay. Now we're not gonna say we're gonna leave them alone and let them go with each other, all the things. We know how we get with our children, right? And we have a feeling that this person isn't right for our child. We would try to intervene, we would try to sway a little bit. So think about Queen Mother, Queen Tiye, okay? Her son is heavily influenced by this woman who's not really from here, and she messing his head all the way up. Yeah. And they still don't have a male heir yet. Yeah. Yeah. And I really believe, I still believe that Akhenaten was mentally out of balance. Okay. He may have been born into this situation, but there was something going on in his mind that caused him to be out of balance like that. Because most of the rulers before him weren't like that. Okay. Everybody was trained to be king. Everybody was trained to be Isabiti. Everybody knew the meta nature. Everybody went to the car, did the Hebsed festivals, all the things. But Akhenaten, he was different. Okay. I think he was out of balance. What do y'all think? Let me see. The fam is talking. Yeah. Yeah, this is so real. Yeah, it is. We forget that these people were people, right? And as parents, if we feel that our children are being influenced the wrong way or being swayed by another crowd, we would try to reel them back in. And I really believe that Queen Tiye was trying to reel her son back in. Okay, that's the reason why we got some other ladies in the mix in this story. Yeah, because she wrote, because when that boy went to Amarna, got another house out there, Queen Mother started writing letters. Said, boy, you need to come back home. She's not good for you. She may be pretty, she may be nice, but something's not right about her. Okay. And her cousins, they kind of doing weird stuff over there. Things like that. Right? So, like I said before, all right, I said this before, Queen Nefertiti is not King Tut's mother. Okay? Queen Nefertiti is not King Tut's mother. Now, so you might have you say she might have vanished from the records. What happened to her? What happened to Nefertiti? Now, if you're enjoying the content, like and subscribe, because I'm gonna try to lightly answer this question. What happened to her? Since she's not the mother, though, what happened to Nefertiti? Okay, like and subscribe. Those who are here. Okay, if you're enjoying this content, hit the like button and subscribe. Let's go. Now, what happened? Here's a couple of theories. What happened to Nefertiti? Okay, here's one. She died before Akhenaten. Okay, that's a theory. Nefertiti became Pharaoh, Neferu Anton. Okay, she changed the name, right? Nefertiti, the third one, became Smenkhare. Okay, or she was erased by the restoration. By the time the Amun priesthood got back into power, they started racing folk out. Okay, yeah. So, and this the simplest theory. Okay, She died before Akhenaten, which is kind of faulty. I don't think that really happened. It's perhaps that she simply died a natural death. Someone before or shortly after. She probably died right before or after. This is what some people say. Her name disappears. Get this. Her name disappears in the official record about year 12 of Akhenaten's reign. So according to some scholars, they believe that she either died before Akhenaten, right before he died, or a little bit after, because she's not mentioned. But the question, was it an illness? Was it political fall from grace? We're not sure. But there's an issue. Okay, here's the issue. Nefertiti wasn't just the queen, she was his co-regent, right? His equal, the royal wife, but also she was the mistress and lady of the two lands, right? And so she appeared in reliefs showing that she was smiting enemies and making offers to the Aten, wearing crowns traditionally reserved for Pharaoh. Okay, was somebody that powerful just disappeared? Okay, what do y'all think? Another one, Nefertiti became the Pharaoh Neferu Aten. Now, Neferu Aten means the beauties of Aten, beauty or beautiful of the Aten, right? So around the time the name Nefertiti disappears from inscriptions, a pharaoh with the name Neferu Aten appears. So as the name and time Nefertiti goes out, Neferu Aten comes in. This ruler is sometimes addressed with feminine pronouns. So she probably took on that name. Okay. So she can continue his ideas, so she can continue Akhenaten's views, right? So Egyptologists like Nicholas Reeves and Aidan Dawson argue that Nefertiti, she didn't disappear, she just transformed. Okay, she shed her queenly robes and took on the role of a king. So if it's true, this will make her a female pharaoh also, alongside Sobek Neferu and Hatshepsut, right? That's another one. Another one is this. But the thing is, why would she change her name though? I'm just thinking about that. Why would she change her name? Okay, I don't know. But Nefertiti, third theory is Nefertiti became Smenkhare. Okay, some believe that Smenkhare was a male pharaoh who briefly ruled after Akhenaten, right, like a couple years before King Tut came on the scene. It might not have been a man at all. It may have been Nefertiti herself, right? But remember, a lot of people didn't like the idea of the Aten, so she went with the old name Smenkhare or Smenkhara, right? Yeah. Mama Louise said, yeah, clever transformation for sure. She had to do a little political sleight of hand, right? Yeah. So think about it. So here's some evidence. So it's a little bit sparse, but it's kind of rare. But the name Smenkhare and Neferu Aten often appears interwoven, like they was connected. Some tomb inscriptions originally naming Smenkhare will later be altered to Neferu Aten, or vice versa, right? Were these two people, or were they the same person with two different titles? Okay, was Nefertiti changing the name to master politics? Because remember, her husband believed in the Aten, but the Amun priesthood and the old school folk are still in Kemet, like the priest of Osiris, the priest of Ra, and all of them. They still have political influence. They still have power in Egypt, right? So she may have had to change this ideology. She had to embrace this radical view, but in order to do that, she had to do away with her own identity. Okay. And the last one, she was erased by the restoration. Okay. Regardless of what identity she assumed, the truth is clear that the Amarna period was over. Okay. The idea of the seat of power away from Thebes or Waset is over. We're going back to Waset. We're going back to Memphis. We're not going to be hanging out in this desert called Amarna. We're going back to the house. So there was a purge. There was a purge. Okay. So Akhenaten's memory was done. Okay. His monuments torn down and destroyed. Names chiseled out. Temples dismantled. And anyone associated with him including Nefertiti was buried by silence. And in Kemetic culture, even in African culture, for your name to be erased, your memory is gone. That is putting you in a place of oblivion, right? So the young King Tut, Akhenaten's likely son, became the figurehead of the return of the old style or the old religion. Okay, his name used to be Tutankhaten, now it's Tutankhamun, right? So the return of Amun worship. His advisors, perhaps like General Horemheb, a military general. We're gonna talk about him in a second too. General Horemheb sought to erase the spiritual revolution and all these changes, and that Nefertiti and her husband put in place to go back to the old ways, right? This was probably her fate, okay? Eradication, okay? Excommunicado, just erased from memory, because even to this point, there's some speculation as to where she's buried, but her body is not found either. Yeah, we found everybody else, but not her. All right. Now think about this. So, but there's some spiritual insight though. There's some spiritual insight about this. Okay, speculative spiritual insight. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Speculative spiritual insight that within the Kemetic spiritual thought, names are not just labels. Okay, it's not something that you put on a person. Names meant power. Okay, names represented power, and so identity transcends flesh or that person's body, right? If Nefertiti's name was spoken, she lives, right? So if her image endures, her ka is still charged, her ka still remains. So, and of course, thousands of years later, her face and her mysterious ways, her life, her resolute draws more eyes than many of the kings, right? Her name is still spoken in documentaries, museums, podcasts, even this one, right? So that is a kind of resurrection. Okay. But so by your name being called in African tradition, you are remembered somewhere, right? So what happened to Nefertiti after Akhenaten's death? Perhaps she became pharaoh, or perhaps she hid behind the mask of Semenkhare, or she was silenced by history. Okay. Or like the sacred cycle of the sun, she simply transcended and rose again in another form, right? In the new world, right? So whatever it is, Nefertiti remains eternal, right? Now, but if you want me to go to more detail about Queen Nefertiti, just the queen by herself, just type in comment Nefertiti, and we'll try to get into that. Okay, so yeah, because we gotta find out who's King Tut's mama is for real. All right, we can't hang out with Queen Nefertiti that much. But if you would like for me to go into more detail about Queen Nefertiti, let me know. Okay, now here it is. Here's another one, Kiya. So we have Queen Nefertiti, right? They had our girls. Kiya, the vanishing consort. Here it is. Here's another theory. Another leading theory. Get this, y'all. That is that King Tut's mother, King Tutankhamun's mother, was Kiya, a lesser-known wife of Akhenaten. She didn't have a lot of political roles, right? Kiya is referenced in several inscriptions and is believed to have held an important position in Akhenaten's court. Some scholars propose that she was a Mitanni princess from Syria, sent to Egypt as part of a diplomatic marriage, and not Nefertiti. So some people believe that Kiya was from Syria and not Nefertiti. Others believe she was a native Egyptian noblewoman who gained favor with Akhenaten. Okay, so we have Kiya. All right, so we have Kiya. Now, the argument, though, for Kiya as Tutankhamun's mother is based on various pieces of evidence. Her disappearance from records around the time of King Tut's birth suggests a possible connection. Okay, she disappeared about the time that King Tut was born. She disappeared. her name, her likeness disappeared from records around the time King Tut was born. Okay. Additionally, her name and images were erased from certain monuments, possibly indicating an attempt to remove her from historical record. These folk did some shifty stuff, some shady stuff. Once they were done with you in Kemet, they were done with you forever. So yeah. So now this pattern of erasure is consistent with the latter suppression of Akhenaten's rule and religious changes, meaning that any connection to him, any connection to Akhenaten was no good. So him or his consorts and anybody else around him was intentionally obscured. So she only had one job. Okay, she only had one job, and that was to give birth to a king, to a prince. Right? She only had one job. Right? So, however, get this, y'all. There's no definitive evidence that links Kiya directly to King Tut, though. She was, for sure, the records say Kiya was married to Akhenaten, okay, as a second wife or whatever, but it doesn't say that she was directly linked to King Tut. So while some speculate, some believe that her sudden disappearance could have be explained by her dying at childbirth, there's no evidence of that, though. There's no evidence. Unlike other royal women, her tomb has not been definitively identified, leaving gaps in historical narrative. So there's no evidence, okay, fam? There's no evidence to link Nefertiti as the mother of King Tut or Kiya as the mother of King Tut. Now, we know both of them were married to Akhenaten. We know that, all right? We know that for sure, okay? So, but them being the mother of King Tut, yeah. Mama Lee says, Queen Nefertiti, yes. She's saying that we need to discuss more of Queen Nefertiti by herself. Yeah, I think she may have to have a solo. We may have to have a solo episode for her. And she says, see, this is where the family secret stuff is coming. This is where the family secret stuff is coming from. Yeah. Yeah, they did have some secret stuff. Okay. And so and I know dealing with that, what they was trying to do, trying to put up a front that Akhenaten was this powerful and great king, which I'm sure he was, but as frail and fragile as the latter end of the 18th dynasty, it showed up. Those gaps and issues start showing up. Yeah. Now, so here it is. So we talked about Akhenaten, okay, and Nefertiti, a strategic royal union, Kiya, the vanishing consort. Now, we got a few more things to deal with, though. Political intrigue in the Amarna court and the younger lady. Yeah, we're going to deal with that, okay? And just for y'all, because y'all asked for it, Kemetic science, esoteric meaning of the Djed. Yeah, y'all wanted a little bit more of the Kemetic science and symbolism. I got something for you. Now, the political struggles in the royal court. The question still remains, who was the real mother King Tut? We still on that. All right. But wait a minute. We're going to get into the political struggle. All right, let's go. Now, the royal court of Akhenaten was filled with political struggles. Okay. Particularly due to his radical religious reforms. That was a no-no. Okay. Because believe it or not, they had the belief of the hidden one, of the unmoved mover. So why would you reinvent something that was already established? So his introduction to monotheism centered around the worship of the Aten disrupted traditional polytheistic beliefs upheld by the powerful priesthood of Amun. Now, a lot of people would call them polytheistic, not necessarily so. Most of the Neteru or the ancestors were different, different ideas or different concepts or representations of the same thing. Okay. That's basically like African thought. It's like there were all these different ideas. All these were a representation of that one hidden one, right? This led to the tensions between the pharaoh's supporters and the traditional religious elite who saw their influence diminish, because when they make the temples, when they do all these things, it costs money, and they was losing money, right? So here we go. During, some say, now before I move on to some of the reasons, some of the struggles, get this. Some would say, I'll get to that in a second. Hold on, let's move on. All right, the Adnis faction, okay, led by Akhenaten, is supported and was supported by Nefertiti. This group promoted the sole worship of the Aten. They sought to eliminate the traditional power of a moon priesthood and restructure Egyptian religious practices. The moon priesthood and traditionalists. So here's the faction: the Adnis faction, the moon priesthood, the royal family. So we have one religion, Aten versus Amun, which I may discuss. Aten versus Amun, I may discuss that. And then the third, the royal family, right? So we have the Adnis faction, the Amun priesthood, right? So these individuals, the Amun priesthood, including many officials and military leaders, resisted Akhenaten's reforms and likely worked against him behind the scenes. Their influence was largely diminished during Akhenaten's reign, but reemerged after his death. They just waited. They just hung out in the back. They was chilling. They waited and said, okay, you talking, but when you leave, we're going to be talking again. So we have the Adnis faction, sponsored by Akhenaten, the Amun priesthood, basically the tradition and the old guard, and the royal family and court officials. Figures like Nefertiti's possible father and Horemheb, the military general, they played crucial roles in navigating the political chaos. Who was a noble, he would later become pharaoh after King Tut's passed. Okay? Once King Tut somehow transitions, we don't know if it was him being sick or him being unalived by somebody. Okay? Yeah. Yeah, that a lot of, he just didn't just pass away in his sleep. Okay? Yeah, King Tut didn't, something happened to him also. Okay? So so I would later become pharaoh after King Tut, while Horemheb ultimately restored the traditional religious practices and erased much of Akhenaten's legacy. And get this though, I found out, this is, by the way, this is Amenemhat III's pyramid capstone, right? This is Sobek-Neferu, Queen Sobek-Neferu's father capstone from the 12th dynasty. I heard that Akhenaten's team, his people, took that down, and they found a pyramid capstone on the ground somewhere. Yeah, for the old school people, they was like, oh no, you're not doing that. By you defacing some of the ancestors' work, that was a problem. That was a problem. Yeah. Yeah, that was an issue. So he like people say, Akhenaten, you're doing too much. You're doing too much, bro. Right? Now, Horemheb had he had considerable military power and political clout. He served as the commander-in-chief of the army. So he was the strong arm of Egypt. Okay? While Akhenaten, he was being all philosophical and religious, Horemheb had a military. His strategic influence and support from the traditionalist faction allowed him to eventually ascend. Eventually, he was going to rise to the throne. Okay, after King Ai's brief reign, his military backing and ideological opposition to Atenism enabled him to tilt the balance of power within the court and paved the way for Egypt's return to orthodoxy. Now I gotta think. I'm thinking about this. At first, I thought, okay, Horemheb, like, bro, you was Amenhotep's ace. You was his guy. But I really think ideologically they weren't the same. They weren't on the same page. I think Horemheb was more. He was a unifier than a usurper. What do you think? Do you guys think he was trying to unify Egypt, or he was just there as a usurper? He wanted to usurp authority. Okay, I think that he did not really mesh well with Akhenaten's view, and he wanted to keep the tradition. He wanted to maintain that dynastic era, the best way he know how. All right. What do y'all think? Like and comment below. Now, so political struggles. The royal court itself was a complex institution centered at Akhenaten, or modern day Amarna, or Akhenaten, where Akhenaten relocated the capital to focus on Aten worship. The court included a hierarchy of officials, scribes, nobles, and military leaders, and religious functionaries, many of whom had conflicting loyalty. Royal women such as Queen Tiye and Nefertiti also had influential positions and managed their own estates and entourages, further adding to the political issue, the political struggle. Everybody had their own team. Everybody had their own camp. Okay? Remember, Queen Nefertiti, if she was a foreigner, she didn't come in there by herself. Right? So foreign convoys, diplomatic marriages added an international dimension to court politics, making it a center of both religious and experimentation and volatile power struggles. Now, so there was some political issues in the court. Akhenaten moving around and moving out of town and everything. We have people with strong military backing. We have the Queen Mother still in place, and all these entourages, right? But who's King Tut's mama though? Now we have the younger lady and the DNA breakthrough. Yeah, man, look, Akhenaten, he got busy. Understand me? Yeah, shout out to King Hercules. Yeah, appreciate it, bro. Nice work, bro. Yeah, Akhenaten, I think he got busy. I think, but the younger lady, because remember, Nefertiti, him and Nefertiti they had daughters. They need a male heir, right? And we find out Kiya was not the mother. What about the younger lady? But before we get into that, though, before we get into that, I got a question. You know, I got to throw in that question. I got a question. Yeah, I got a question. Hold on. I got a question. Now, my students at the high school, they've been arguing about this all week. Okay, I want to know. Okay, because they didn't clarify. Silverback gorilla or 100 men, who wins? Okay, silverback gorilla. They've been arguing about this all week. I'm like, we have other things to deal with. Why are we talking about this gorilla versus 100 people? Okay, who wins? Now, they didn't say were these strong men? They just said 100 people, right? What do y'all think? All right, what do y'all think? Silverback or 100 men? Now, I'm going to tell you, if 100, most says 100 men. Now, if it's 100 men, everybody ain't going to make it. And then all these 100 men, are they in shape? They didn't have any weapons. They don't have anything. Okay. Yeah. So like, comment below. Let me know. You know, a very important question. It says, if our folk could take out lions, they should take out gorilla. Okay. That's what they say. But them gorillas, they got something different. Then somebody threw in Mike Tyson. I said, bro, Mike Tyson has one punch. This 800-pound gorilla. Yeah, I don't know. Mama Louise says Silverback wins for sure. Yep, I'm Team Silverback. I'm Team Silverback. That's what that is. But they was arguing about this all week. I'm like, y'all, we got other things to deal with, right? Let's go. Now, the younger lady and the DNA breakthrough. Here it is. Now, a major turning point within the mystery of King Tut's parentage came in 2010 when led by Dr. Zahi Hawass. This study provided compelling evidence that the mummy known as the younger lady in tomb KV 35 was the biological mother of King Tut. Okay, based on genetics, based on science, they was able to prove that this younger lady was King Tut's mama, but for some reason, they still cannot prove that King Tut was black. They can find everything else. They can use science for everything else, but they can't figure out. Okay. Let me see what. Yeah. Isu says gorilla. He will demoralize the men after a few losses. Yeah. King says 100 million people, not all would make it. Yeah, and the gorilla would get tired. Okay. I'm with you. But I still think that gorilla will tear them up though. But now, the younger lady. So they're using genetics, and they found that this young lady was the mother of King Tut. For some reason, they can't figure out. They can't put two and two together and say that King Tut was African. Okay. All right. Now, this mummy was discovered in the tomb of Amenhotep II alongside other royal individuals. This is the cool part. They found all these royal mummies, these royal ancestors in one place. Through genetic analysis, it was determined that the younger lady that was a daughter of Amenhotep III and Queen Tiye, making her full sister to Akhenaten, which is weird. It is weird. Okay, I can't. It's weird, but they was buried together. So this revelation was significant because it indicated that King Tut was a product of a brother-sister marriage, a common practice among Egyptian royals to maintain the purity of the royal bloodline. Now, I don't know. Outside this situation, outside this immediate situation dealing with King Tut's parentage and all that, I haven't heard about other brother-sister marriages because we found out Amenemhat IV was not the brother of Neferuptah or Sobek Neferu. Amenemhat IV was adopted by King Amenemhat III, by Sobek Neferu's father. He was an outsider being brought in and adopted as prince. I haven't really heard too many instances outside of that little situation that they were just doing that. Because Ramses' wife was not his sister. Okay, Ramses the Great, his wife, matter of fact, his wife was either from Kemet or Sudan. Okay, so I haven't heard anything. They're trying to make it that was a thing in Egypt, that they was just getting with each other's brothers and sisters, but I haven't heard that. Okay, outside of this situation, like and comment below. Yeah, they found her. Yeah, tomb KV 35. KV, for those who need to know, for those who would like to know, I'm sorry. KV5 means King's Valley, or the Valley of the Kings. Okay, KV 35. There's several tombs, New Kingdom, 18th Dynasty on out. A lot of their tombs is in the Valley of the Kings, and that is in Egypt. And then there is also the Valley of the Queens, where a lot of the queens are buried. But in this case, the younger lady was buried with royalty. Think about it. When you are buried with royalty, that means that you were royal also. Okay? So, get this. However, they're saying such inbreeding likely contribute to the health issues plagued to King Tut, including skeletal deformities, scoliosis, cleft palate, weakened immune system, so on. Like I said, disclaimer, this is from the prevailing view of the Eurocentric historians and not a lot of our African historians. A lot of our African historians, like Dr. Ben and them, they did not harp on that. They didn't address it. So just take that as a grain of salt. Now, her burial, okay, let's get to it. The younger lady, her burial was unceremonious, with her mummy found in a damaged state, suggesting that her unalivement may not have been planned, or that she fell out of favor before her passing, okay, because she was royalty. And Akhenaten it may have been an issue between her and Akhenaten and the camp and the crew. Okay, the lack of inscriptions identifying her further deepens the mystery, leaving scholars to debate whether she was Sit-Amun, Aset, Henut Aneb, or another daughter of Amenhotep and Tiye. Okay, so they don't know for sure whether or not, as far as if she was Queen Tiye's daughter or Amenhotep the, let me see, that's my place. She was buried in Amenhotep II's tomb, so they don't know which daughter she is. They don't know which child she is. Okay, they just call her the younger lady. They don't know if she is Sit Amun Aset. They just didn't know. They do know that she is a daughter of Amenhotep, but they don't know which name. So they just gave her a title, the younger lady. Now, KV 35, the tomb of Amenhotep. Get this, y'all. She was buried in this place. She was buried among a lot of royals. Let me see. Mo says we have to be careful with Dr. Hawazi. He has a lot of misconceptions in real Egyptians and blacks in that part of the region. I kind of take a lot of. I try to read for myself. Okay, when it comes down to Egyptologists, we know that Egyptology was founded on racism, and they really did not want, because this Egyptology was founded during the time where they was trying to prove that black people came from apes. Okay, so I just kind of just keep it moving. Let me see. King Hercules said, "Yeah, I thought they married their sisters just to keep the family name, but they would have kids with other women because they knew better than having relations with their sisters." Yeah, I'm towards the belief that they married outside of their family. Now, in the sense, these people were elite also. These people were royalty also, because we know for a fact that Queen Mother Tiye was from royalty, or was from a noble family. She was not Amenhotep III's sister. They wanted to keep that royalty, that understanding there. So of course, money marries money, right? That's basically what it is. All right. So think about that. Let me see, the family's talking. Okay. All right. So yes, Brother Mo says, yes, there have been a lot of discoveries has done that have benefited Egypt, but there are others that left out and distorted. They sure did, because he's saying that there are some that were kept and received as Egyptology and knowledge, and they put that in the museums. There was others left out and distorted. Here's why: because where Abu Simbel is. That originally it was in the south. Okay, that was in the Aswan area. They moved Abu Simbel and they put the Aswan Dam there and flooded Nubia, parts of Nubia, where a lot of Nubian artifacts was in a lot of grave sites that had Nubian culture and Nubian knowledge there. They flooded that area. Why? One major reason is to disconnect that association between Kush and Kemet, because if that remained intact, it would show that Kush was and is the mother of Kemet. So a lot of that knowledge is underwater. Okay, that's what that is. All right, so the tomb of Amenhotep the second. This was like a family plot, you know what I'm saying? Because mummies that were found there was Tutmosis IV, Amenhotep III, Merni Ptah, Seti II, Sit Ptah, Ramses the fourth, fifth, and sixth, Queen Tiye. This was like a family plot. Okay, like the old school graveyards where all the family was buried together. That's what that was. Inscriptions, of course, inscriptions of the Amduat and the Book of Gates line the tomb. So, and by the way, we may discuss the Book of Gates, by the way. We may get into that also. Because during the New Kingdom, they had the pyramid text, the Book of Coming For by Day, but the Book of Gates became a major theme during this time. Yeah, so in this situation, the younger lady was buried next to Queen Tiye, not Nefertiti. Okay, not her son's daughter. Her son's wife, but it was this lady. It was a younger lady. Her mitochondrial DNA was matched to that of King Tut. They did the record. Her genetics lined up with King Tut. The autosomal DNA confirmed her as both the sister, which is weird, of Akhenaten and the mother of King Tut, providing the most direct evidence of his maternal lineage to date. This groundbreaking genetic work also shed light on the royal inbreeding and health repercussions, fundamentally altering our understanding of the 18th dynasty succession. And like I said before, because non-royal people in Kemet were not buried next to or placed next to royalty in Egypt. So she was royalty, and she was put among the ancestors, okay, in Amenhotep the second's in KV 35 in his tomb. So she was buried next to with Queen Tiye and some others, not Nefertiti. All right. Now, here we go. The Djed. Yeah, we about to get into that. I hope y'all still got your pen and paper. Now, this was a statement that was said months ago. That topic regarding symbols representing the everlasting, our genetics are everlasting. Still digging up artifacts today, as we know, as we find out. Still digging up artifacts today, as science advances, so does DNA of those many ancient bones found in Egypt. Shout out to Ali 9532. Now, here we go. The esoteric symbolism of the Djed Pillar. Yep, you guys made a request for us to get into some Kemetic science and symbolism. So here we go. All right, this is one. Okay, this we got several, but this is one. All right. So the Djed Pillar is one of the most ancient and sacred symbols in Egyptian mythology. Okay, it is traditionally associated with Osiris or Osar, the Neter or the god of resurrection, and it represents stability, endurance, and eternal life, right? In esoteric teachings, in symbolic teaching, the Djed, D-J-E-D, the Djed symbolizes the spine, as you can see, the spine of Osiris, and serves as a metaphor for spiritual awakening and the inner pillar of light within the human body, the inner pillar of light within the human body. And shout out to the Kemetic Nation. We broke this down a little bit where they were saying this is a power generator. Okay. So the Djed can be also symbolic of electricity, electromagnetic power, right? So the inner pillar of light within the human body, right? So esoterically, symbolically, the Djed is often symbolic to the human spinal column, okay? With each of its crossbars symbolizing the levels of consciousness or degrees. All right? The raising of the Djed during the ritual ceremonies, especially during the annual raising of the Djed, was a reenactment of Osiris' resurrection and a call for the renewal of order and cosmic balance in Kemet in Egypt. It is both political and spirit, and it is both a political and spiritual event symbolizing the king's alignment with Ma'at, the principle of divine order. As you see here, this is Seti the first, him raising the Djed. Okay, it has to be done. All right, raising the Djed. Okay, and speaking of that, we're going to talk about it. Story time. All right, the story of the raising of the Djed. All right, so did a little research about that. So what is that? What is this raising of the Djed ceremony? Right now, in ancient time, before time when the world was still young. Okay, this is a story. And the Nile had not yet chosen her path. The divine king Osiris ruled the land of Kemet with justice, wisdom, and the order of Ma'at. And also, there are stories that say that Osiris was from Sudan, or he was from Anu, or the Anu people. Okay, under his reign, the people flourished, the crops ripened under the sun's gaze, and the Neteru, the god, smiled upon the earth. But darkness stirred in the heart of his brother Set, the god of chaos, the desert, and the storms. Set grew envious of Osiris' glory and conspired against him. In the moment of deceit, he Set trapped Osiris in a chest and cast it into the Nile. The waters wept, the earth stilled, and Osiris vanished from the land of the living. The chest, carried by the current, reached the land of Byblos, okay, and lodged within the roots of a great tamarisk tree or acacia tree. Okay. As the tree grew, it embraced the chest in its trunk, sealing Osiris within, a secret sarcophagus hidden in nature's heart, right? The king of Byblos, unaware of what lay within, cut down the tree and used it as a pillar in his palace. Thus was born the first Djed, the pillar that holds divine truth. As you can see, there's an image of the Djed. We have Osiris, he's laying there, but then he is raised, okay, as a pillar, right? Now, meanwhile, Isis, the devoted wife, the goddess of magic, searched the world for her beloved. This is like a love story. And she searched through the desert winds and foreign lands. She traveled until she came to Byblos and by her divinity gained access to the sacred pillar. With reverence, she retrieved the tree and brought the body of Osiris back to Kemet, back to Egypt. But Set, discovering her act, struck again. This time, he tore Osiris into 14 pieces. 14 pieces and scattered them across the land. Yet, Isis, undaunted, she gathered each piece with the help of her sister Nephthys, okay, Anubis the embalmer, and Jehudi, the scribe of the Neteru. She reassembled him, but only one piece was missing. And that piece was his phallus swallowed by a catfish. Wow. Okay. So with divine craft, Isis, she fashioned a substitute and breathed life back into Osiris long enough to conceive a child, Heru, to be the heir to the throne. This resurrection of Osiris was not complete in body, but complete in spirit. Okay. He descended to rule the Duats, the realm of the dead and the ancestors, as the eternal judge. But in the world of the living, Isis and Heru established the great ritual, the raising of the Djed. And I told you, before we go on further into the story, there is a king's list. There is an ancient king's list that mentions Heru and Ra and many others as pre-dynastic kings. All right? We may talk about that. But anyway, so back to the story. Each year, as the flow of waters of the Nile began to recede and life returned to the soil, the people of Kemet gathered to the temple. The priests chanted ancient hymns, incense burned and curled towards the sky, and the great pillar, carved and decorated with symbols of eternal life, was prepared. The pharaoh, the Insubiti, the pharaoh himself, the living embodiment of Heru, took part. Together with the priests, he raised the Djed upright. This was an annual thing. Every year, he had to raise the Djed upright, pulling it from a horizontal position. He raised it to a vertical. He raised it from a horizontal to a dead position to a living position. Okay, with ropes and ritual strength. As it stood tall and firm, the people cheered. The pillar stood not only for the spine of Osiris, but also as the spine of the universe, the axis around which heaven and earth and the Duat turn. So, yeah, so the Djed represented establishment and power, right? So to raise the Djed was to proclaim that Osiris, the ancestors lived, order was restored, life returned. And in that moment, the powers of chaos were subdued, the breath of Osiris flowed through the land, crops was able to grow, spirits could rise, and the people of Kemet knew they had once again aligned themselves with the eternal rhythm of life, death, and rebirth. And so the Djed remains a pillar of strength, stability, and divine resurrection, a reminder that no matter how deep the darkness is, the light of the ancestors can and will rise again. So some esoteric traditions interpret the Djed as a transmitter of divine energy or the force of life, or the Ka, capable of connecting the earthly realm to the ancestral plane, to the divine. In the situation of Akhenaten's reign, though, and the theological upheaval he initiated, the absence or transformation of the Djed symbol in Amarna could have been seen as a deliberate shift from traditional resurrection symbolism to the direct illumination of the acid. However, Later on, some other pharaohs would, include King Tut, restored the Djed's prominence as part of the return to the old way, the return to orthodoxy, reinstating the traditional beliefs around life, death, and spiritual continuity, right? Now, from a metaphysical, the esoteric symbolism of the Djed Pillar from a metaphysical standpoint, the Djed resonates with modern genetic symbolism. Just as DNA preserves hereditary information, the Djed served as a spiritual backbone of dynastic continuity. Just as the Djed symbolizes the structure and integrity of the spine, the Djed DNA, is the fundamental structure preserving life's blueprint. So the Egyptians may have intuitively understood this connection because a lot of the symbols represent the human body also. A lot of the symbols represent the human body. So this connection, they understood this connection in encoding metaphysical ideas of inheritance, continuity, and divine order into symbols like the Djed. Okay? So with modern genetics, revealing the intricacies of royal bloodlines in the ancient dynasty, the Djed can be reinterpreted as not just a spiritual emblem, but a symbolic prototype of the human genome, a pillar of ancestral memory and dynastic transmission. Now, subscribe if you want more comedic science and history, because we can go. This is just one. And as you look at this picture, this is Djed, and in both hands, he has life in both hands, and he has those staffs, which keeps him sturdy. Okay, that means whoever this king is, or whoever looks upon it, they are encouraged to be established, to be the best that they can be, to be the living and positive force in the world around them. Okay, but yeah, if you want more comedic science and history, hit the subscribe button, and we'll have a conversation. So the true identity of King Tut's mother remains one of the most ancient, one of the most mysterious things and compelling ideas. So while prominent figures such as Nefertiti and Kiya once held sway with scholarly speculation, a lot of people thought they were his mother, but with the coming of modern DNA, with the coming of modern genetic analysis, it changed the narrative. Okay, the genetic blueprint, fingerprint of the younger lady, the full sister of Akhenaten and the daughter of Amenhotep III and Queen Tiye, we still don't know her real name for sure, offers the most definitive evidence yet. Okay, yet even in the clarity of her biological relationship, her name remains lost. We don't know for sure. Erased from memory by the volatile politics and shifting ideologies of the Amarna age, just guilty by association, right? This mystery is not merely a biological or historical, but it's also symbolic, y'all. Her life echoes the broader instability of a dynasty shaken by theological revolution, courtly rivalries, and the consequences of royal issues, right? In probing and dealing with her story, we're also excavating the spiritual and philosophical landscape of civilization that encoded metaphysical truth in every monument, every glyph, and every ritual. The Djed, the Djed, a long pillar, resurrection and order, acquires renewed meaning in this context. So no longer just a symbol of divine stability, it may be reinterpreted as a metaphoric double helix, a visual prophecy of genetic inheritance and dynastic continuity. In the interplay between the symbol and science, the ancient and the modern converge. Myth becomes code, and lineage becomes scripture. The Djed stands not just as a spine of Osiris, but the backbone of memory, biological, cultural, and cosmic. So, as our understanding of genetics deepens, the new discoveries emerge from Kemet sands. We come ever closer to lifting the final veil. Yet, perhaps the power of the mystery lies not in its resolution, but in the capacity to remind us that history is fun. Okay, I love history. Okay, and like DNA, it carries within its sacred spiral of identity, loss, and eternal, and and eternal return. Okay. King Hercules said, check out my presentation on advanced mathematics and chemistry. Okay. And so they show that they knew Schrodinger's equation and the DNA helix. Yeah. Brother Mo says the one with the king that had life in both hands. Yeah. Mo says we asked and you brought the symbolism. Please keep it coming. Thank you for all your hard work. I'm trying, because guess what? School, my regular school is almost over, and so we're about to get into the summer, and you know it's going to be up. You know we're going to have some fun this summer. All right. Yeah. So now, who was the real mother King Tut? It was the younger lady. All right. So that's the answer. It wasn't Nefertiti. Okay. It wasn't Queen. It wasn't Kiya. Right. It was the younger lady. Now, just so you know, we still in that book, the first female pharaoh, Sebek-Neferu, the goddess of the seven stars. The link is in the description. And here are a few books. Okay. We got a few books. Osiris. We got a book on Osiris and the Egyptian Resurrection by E.A. Wallace Budge. Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James. Stolen Legacy is good. Temple and Man. If you want to get into some comedic science and symbolism, check that book out. And Sacred Science for sure. Okay. All right. So those books are really good. And as time go on, we will be throwing in some comedic science and all those things, the symbolism and all that. And for the kiddos, Tutankhamun and His Friends. That is a very good book. It's an easy read. My parents gave me this when I was like 12 years old. Check it out. It's great. Now, so we talked about DNA, Dynasties, and Deception. If you like the content, subscribe and share with somebody that may enjoy it, and share it on Pinterest or Facebook. Right. So, and guess what? We're about to get into Nubia. Okay, Thrones of Fire and Temples of Light. That is loading. Okay, once we that's going to be live too, and we're going to get into some Kushite symbolism. Yes, indeed. We're going to get into Kush and the Lion Temple of Naka. Right, and somebody else asked about the primordial Neteru, the goddess Net, who gave birth to Ra. Yeah. We're going to get into some pre-dynastic things too. All right. And so I'm excited about it. And of course, the queens, we talked about the queens of the Nile, right? We talked about the top 5. But now we have, since we talked about the top 5, since we talked about the top 5 queens of the Nile, there's a couple of queens. Shout out to Bubba Dub from Dallas. There was a couple of queens that was trash. There was a couple of queens that was trash. If you want me to talk about some 5 or 6 queens that was trash, y'all type trash in the comment. Man, look, everything ain't peaches and cream around here. We always talking about the great ones. There's some of them that were trash. All right. And so if you want me to talk about them, because Happy Mother's Day, there was some of them. There was some of them queens, and you know which one. I got one. There's a couple of them that was trash. All right, so so you want me to talk about the ones that were trash? Let me know. All right. So we just got to talk about DNA, Dynasties, and Deception. Now, if you want to catch up with the Queens of the South series, the link, I have the video. We have the series for that. If you want to know about my top 5 Queens of the Nile Valley and catch up, we got that also. All right. So, so this is the King Cam Ujumbe Podcast. Ujumbe means message. And I will talk to you guys later. Have a good week. Wait, hold on. Fuck. No, I can't. Because a lot of people like to esteem this European girl, Cleopatra, as the one. She wasn't her. And like I said, yeah, Cleopatra, she was trash. Okay. So that's one. All right. But you guys, that's one. All right. So there's 4 more though. There's 4 more. All right, so yeah, we'll talk about her. Yeah, and she was okay. Some people do agree. Okay, some people do agree that Cleopatra, she won her. You see what I'm saying? Fight come with that. It is what it is. But she wasn't the only one. Okay. There was some other sisters in Egypt that was trash. Okay. So, but yeah, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. We're gonna get into that conversation. But I really appreciate you guys coming. Yeah. Before we turn loose, are there any questions before we go? Yeah, Mama, we said this was a great time for sure. Thank you guys for coming. I really appreciate that. Do you guys have any questions? Do you guys have any questions? All right. If there are none, I don't want to hold you. We will deal with comedic symbolism. We will deal with that. For those who are still rocking with me, this summer, really quick, this summer we will deal with Ethiopia. Okay, by itself. We'll take a break from the pharaonic age, and we'll deal with ancient. Actually, we'll deal with ancient Ethiopia. We'll deal with that, and then we'll get into some comedic science. Okay, so we're taking our time. Okay. Okay, Library Without Board. Shout out. I haven't forgot about you either, because you asked a question about the connection between Kemet and Congo. I'm working on that. We're working on that. Yeah. Thank you for coming. When is the next question? Okay. When is the next lesson? Because next week is Mother's Day. Shout out to our mothers. We're not gonna have a live on Mother's Day. I don't want to be like that. But the next one will be next week, okay? And then we'll go from there. Okay, we will go from there. We will try to keep our lives on Sunday afternoon. A lot of people like that, and I will sprinkle in a few videos here and there during the week. But our day is Sunday afternoons, and but yeah, we will kind of forego next Sunday and be a blessing to our mothers and aunties and all the things. So, yeah. So, but the next one, it will be we'll continue part 5. We'll deal with that. We'll deal with part 5. That will be next, like Tuesday after next. So that's what we'll do. Yeah, and yes, we will deal with Ethiopia, because a lot of people like that. A lot of people enjoy Ethiopia, and I want to give the people what they want. Okay, I don't want to just be talking, right? It won't be fair. So I figured that as time go on, we should get into detail with some of the things that we briefly discussed, right? That's what teaching is about. But yeah, so we'll try to do lives almost once a week, and we'll throw in another video towards the end of the week. But next week is Mother's Day, so we will deal with Sebek Nefru's faith Tuesday after next. Okay, I don't know the exact date, but yeah, we'll be the Tuesday after next, and then we'll continue on, because we got to deal with we gotta finish because something happened to her and her brother. So yeah, but thank you guys for coming. Now, I don't want to hold you, but I really appreciate you guys. But this has been a great journey. I really appreciate you guys. We're all learning together, and you guys have been great. Thank you for some of you guys been here from day one, and some of you guys just got here. All you guys have been a blessing to me, and I'm gonna keep doing it. All right, as long as I can, and keep on commenting, keep on sharing, and I really appreciate you guys, and thank you for being awesome. And let's learn together. And I will talk to you guys later.